to start things off. We are 5 days away from the national championship game. The only two remaining undefeated teams in college football, the teams that were ranked 1 and 2 going into the college football playoff, are meeting for the national championship.
Our friend Chase in Columbus, by the way, reminded me last night that if the BCS were still the thing, it would have gotten it right because Michigan and Washington.
Barrett Sallee was quick on that as well. Oh, Barrett, of wishing we went back to the BCS way of thinking.
Yeah.
I will pass on that. No, thank you. But I guess whatever your opinion is, your opinion is. So we are 5 days away from Michigan and Washington, the two remaining undefeateds, playing for the national championship. We are like 340 days away from a 12-team playoff. It's going to be absolutely fantastic next season because we're not going to be focused on who are the 4. It's going to be who are the 12 and who are going to be the conference champions and who is the group of 5 at-large team that is going to get into the college football playoff. But Brian Haydad, it brings up a pretty interesting question and one that may anger some, but that's all right, a question nonetheless. Does the group of 5 deserve an automatic bid into the playoff?
I will say yes, but they have to have a qualifier. I think to be eligible, for a group of 5 team to be eligible for the college football playoff, they have to have played and beaten a Power 5 team in their season.
I like that.
One's enough?
Just one. One's enough.
Okay.
So if they want to schedule a Vanderbilt or a Rutgers or whoever, a lower tier Power 5 team, that's fine. But they got to beat them to be eligible.
So since 2014, when we started the college football playoff, there has been one non-Power 5, soon-to-be Power 4 team that has made it. That was Cincinnati in 2021. And Cincinnati, hey, Dad, did exactly
beat Power 5 teams.
They did exactly what you suggested just a moment ago. They had 2 Power 5 teams on their schedule that they beat that season, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe you're correct. I'm double checking you now. I know they beat Notre Dame that year, right?
Yes.
Yes, they beat Indiana and they beat Notre Dame.
And also, for what it's worth, I mean, they beat UCF, which is now a Power 4 team.
Power 5.
And also SMU and also Houston. So,
yeah. That was a good Cincinnati team. It had pros.
That team deserved to be in. Yeah. Deserved to be in.
So Cincinnati in 2021 at 13-0 was the only group of 5 team that has been part of the 4-team playoff. There have been a ton of Power 5 champions that have been left out. In fact, every year of the playoff, I know Florida State wants to claim that they are left on an island all by themselves. The difference is Florida State was an undefeated Power 5 champion. But every year of the playoff, there has been at least one Power 5 champion that has been left out. 2014, you had 2, Baylor and TCU. Both at 11-1 were left out. 2015, 2-loss Stanford was left out. They were ranked 6th. In 2016, you had 11-2 Penn State that was left out. 10-2 Oklahoma was left out. 2017, Ohio State and USC, both with 2 losses. In 2018, Ohio State at 12-1 was ranked 6th, and they were left out, as was Washington at 10-3. Oregon was left out in 2019. In 2020, Oklahoma and Oregon were both left out. Neither of them played full schedules that year. Oklahoma was 8-2. Oregon was 4-2. In 2021, you had 3 Power 5 conference champions that were left out, but all had at least 2 losses, Baylor, Utah, and Pittsburgh. In 2022, it was 3, Clemson, Utah, Kansas State. And then this year, for the first time, an undefeated Power 5 conference champion was left out in 13-0 Florida State. So this year was very much an anomaly. Here's what, if the question is, Should the group of 5 be excluded from the playoff? I would answer unequivocally no. They should not be excluded. However, I might go with a different qualifier than you did, Hey Dad, but it's using a different metric to say the same thing. They just got to finish in the top 12. I don't think there's any way around giving automatic bids to the winner of the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12, or the Big 12. Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. There's no way around giving an automatic bid to the conference champion from those 4 leagues. But then you've got 8 spots up for grabs. So here's the next layer. How many times since the college football playoff began in 2014 would a group of 5 team have ended up in the playoff? Certainly is not every year. In 2014, year one, the highest-ranked group of 5 team was Boise State at number 20. In 2015, it was Houston at number 18, so they wouldn't have gotten in. 2016 is an interesting one. You had Western Michigan, who went 13-0 that year, and they were ranked 15th. Do you happen to remember, I don't have it in front of me, whether Western Michigan beat a Power 5 team that year?
I can sure look it up. Give me a second.
All right.
I was just looking at Central Florida. I'll go ahead and tell you with Central Florida for the next 2 years they did.
Yes. So in
they beat Northwestern in Evanston by 1. And they also won at Illinois.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so two Power 5 wins.
So by Haydad's qualification, Western Michigan in 2016 would have been in the playoff, whereas with what I was saying being in the top 12, they wouldn't necessarily have been in. 2017, UCF would have gotten in as ranked number 12. In 2018,
and they had a Power 5 win.
Okay. 2018, UCF would have gotten in at number 8.
And they had a Power 5 win.
2019, no. You had Memphis 17, Boise State 18, and Appalachian State 20, but none of those in the top 12. 2020 is the most interesting year, though. Now, 2020 was a weird season, but in 2020, you would have had 2 group of 5 teams that got in. You would have had undefeated Cincinnati at 9-0, who was ranked 8th. And you would have had undefeated Coastal Carolina, who was ranked 12th and went 11-0.
Hey, if that's what the people thought they were, then that's what they were. So be it.
In 2021, obviously Cincinnati that got in the 4-team playoff would have been in a 12-team playoff. And then neither of the last 2 years. Last year, it was 2-loss Tulane, 2-loss Troy, 2-loss UTSA. All would have been outside looking in. And then this year, Liberty at 13-0 and SMU at 11-2 would have been outside looking in. And can you look at either Liberty or SMU and go, you know what, that is a team that should be part of a 12-team playoff?
No.
To determine the national champion.
And so
I would have thought SMU might have been, and then they got handled in their bowl game. And I was just like, well, never mind. And Liberty just got rolled. I will say I think Liberty got a bad matchup. Oregon might be the second best team not in the playoff. Like I think Oregon is really, really good. If Liberty, I'm trying to think my way around. They would have been the 12
seed, so they would have played the 5 seed. You're going to tell me that would have been a good matchup for them?
Oh, I don't. Well, who's the 5 seed? Georgia? Then no. But if in this situation. But in this bowl scenario that we have this year, if they had matched up with Penn State, they maybe could have been a little more impressive.
They would have done nothing offensively against Penn State.
You don't think?
No.
Okay.
They just don't match up personnel-wise. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Interesting talk. Let's get to some of your thoughts here. Sports Talk Mississippi. Does the group of 5 deserve to get an automatic qualifier into the 12-team playoff that will begin next season? Quite simply. Do they deserve an automatic spot? Or is there something that you put in place where you say, okay, they deserve it if this happens? My thought is, well, if they're ranked in the top 12, they deserve to be in. Hey, Dad suggested that if they are a conference champion, did you say undefeated?
No, they don't have to be undefeated. I mean, I guess that's a good point, though. Like, if let's go with my theory there. Like, so they beat, I don't know, Texas Tech, but they also lost to South Florida. Like, I don't know. But, I mean, at the same time, if it's not a conference game, I don't know. If they win their conference, I mean, would we keep out a Power 5 team that lost to a Group of 5 team but won their conference? I don't think we would. So
no, because the overall strength of schedule would be completely different.
Right.
They would have proven it.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I can't. If you win your conference and you beat a Power 5 team, maybe the top 12 needs to be the other qualifier there. You got to stay in the top 12 too.
Yeah, I mean that's the only.
Yeah, I made it work in my head. You have to be in the top 12 to be considered. But if you're a Group of 5 team, you also have to have the other qualifier of beating a Power 5 team.
And I know bowl games aren't.
Well, hold on now. That just changed.
Just
what
shut
you
up,
said.
Borky. You're not talking here, evidently.
No, I want you to
Go
talk.
ahead.
I do. But what you just said is dramatically different than what you said in the first segment.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's got to be that way, right?
So
you can't
you've
have
got, for a Group of 5 team to be in the 12-team playoff. You think, one, they have to be in the top 12, and two, they have to have at least one win against a Power 4 conference team.
Yeah. I think that makes
I think
more
I'd
sense.
throw that part of it out. They just got to be in the top 12, period.
That's what it needs to be because, and I'm somebody that before this year, before what happened in this bowl season, I have advocated for the inclusion of the Group of 5 because if you take meaning away from their seasons, scenes like game day at James Madison, and I know most people couldn't care less about that, but you saw how incredible that was and how meaningful that day was. There are millions of people that care about Group of 5 and less, FCS, Division II, Division III football. And so if you remove their inclusion of the playoff, what are they playing for? And that's a real conversation. That's a real debate. If you're a Southern Miss fan and there's no automatic qualifier to the playoff, what is your season? What are you playing for? The Sun Belt Championship? Is that a great thing? Yeah. Is that something that you can keep fan interest year in and year out just to go win the Sun Belt? Maybe not. I mean, that's a tough sell. So I've advocated for their inclusion because they matter too, and those seasons do matter.
But don't you think with the schedule that Southern Miss plays, that would include – if Southern Miss went undefeated, wouldn't you think that they would be ranked in the top 12 nationally based on the schedule they play most years?
Yes, but
yeah,
how many teams
this
go
year?
undefeated?
They would have beaten Florida State.
Right.
They would have beaten Florida State, Mississippi State, and they played somebody else in the Power 5, didn't they?
I mean, how many
they
times
another SEC team?
How many times have they gone undefeated in the history of their program? And that's not a shot at Southern Miss. How many times have any program gone undefeated? I mean, that's a very difficult ask. And so when you look around and everybody else can get in now in the 12-team playoff with 2 losses, and it's so I've advocated for their inclusion. Generally speaking, I think that they should have that to play for. However, Liberty and SMU showing has changed my mind, at least to some degree, because neither one of them, Liberty did not belong on the field with Oregon. They would not have belonged on the field with Penn State. They would not have belonged on the field with a full-strength Florida State. Certainly not Georgia, not Ole Miss, not Alabama, not Michigan, none of them. Liberty would have had no business on the field with anybody. They would have gotten blown out by all of them. And then SMU lost to Boston College, and Tulane, the other team that would have been in the mix, lost to Virginia Tech. This was the worst year for the Group of 5 in the postseason. Going into this year, they were 4-5 in Access Bowls, and the margin of defeat in those 5 losses was 10 on average. So they've shown well, but this was the worst year for it. And if you're Greg Sankey and you're sitting here and you saw Oklahoma, the committee, remember, essentially left Oklahoma out of the playoff, if you think about it in that context. Oklahoma would have missed the playoff. So you sit back and you see Oklahoma, who beat Texas, by the way, on a neutral field.
They did.
And then you watch the Liberty game. And you're Greg Sankey, and you have the power to give that slot to Oklahoma or a Penn State or somebody else with athletes. Are you really okay with Liberty's inclusion over one of your members? If you're the commissioner of the Big Ten, are you really okay with Liberty's inclusion over a Penn State? Because you shouldn't be. And that is what I'm curious. I would love to put Truth Serum in the SEC office in Birmingham right now and say, hey, Greg, what'd you think about the Fiesta Bowl?
All right, so Mike in Oxford says if you just go with the strict top 12, a group of 5 team will be left out 9 out of 10 years. But that's just not true because we've got a 10-year sample size from 2014 through 2023, and we pointed out how many times you would have a group of 5 team that would have qualified. So in a 10-year window, you would have had 1, 2, 3, 4. You would have had 4 times out of 10 years that a group of 5 team would have been in. What about this? Let's just go crazy for a second. Since we're playing hypothetical, we don't have the ability to make decisions. A lot of group of 5 schools have pushed back against the idea of being separate from the Power 5, which is now the Power 4. Okay, I got no issue with that. What if we said the group of 5 could have its cake and eat it too? What if we said very simply, if you are a group of 5 team and you qualify for the 12-team playoffs by being one of the top 12 teams in the country, you're in. Congratulations. And those teams that make up the group of 5, in addition to that, so in that year, that team would not be eligible for the second part of this equation. You take the top 4 ranked teams from the group of 5, and then you play 2 semifinal games and a second championship game. So you don't do a breakaway where you go, okay, the group of 5's over here, and the Power 4 is over here. Maybe it's group of 6, Power 4, whatever it's going to look like. Anyway, you get the idea. Big schools on one side, smaller schools on the other side, and never the twain shall meet. You leave the opportunity on the table for a group of 5 team that has an exceptional season, like UCF did in 2017 and 2018, like Cincinnati did in 2020 and 2021. In an exceptional season, you have the opportunity to qualify for the 12-team playoff. And outside of that, the top 4 group of 5 teams are going to play for another championship. And you get 2 semifinal games, and you host those on campus, the higher-ranked team. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 host, 1 hosts 4, 2 hosts 3. And then the winners of those 2 games play at a neutral site, FBS, call it whatever you want to, championship game that is not the national championship game for the bigger schools.
Yeah.
Do both.
That's interesting.
What's wrong with that idea?
So
nothing wrong with that idea.
When we brought this up before, Southern Miss fans really, really pushed back on that. And I'm
wondering if that's a compromise. You say, no, we want to be included. We want to have the opportunity to earn our way into a playoff and play for a national championship. Okay, that opportunity exists. Be one of the top 12 teams in the country. But in the absence of that, if you're one of the top 4 ranked group of 5 teams, you're going to have a chance to play for an FBS Division II national championship.
But what if that does happen, though? Do you still have that alternative championship if somebody gets in?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. In a year where, let's use Southern Miss. Let's say Southern Miss is the number 12 team nationally, and they're in the playoff. Well, now you take 2, 3, 4, and 5 as your top 4 remaining seeds from the group of 5, play 2 semifinals, play a championship game, get a trophy, put it on TV. People absolutely would watch.
They watch the FCS playoffs, man.
There are a lot of people that are going to watch the FCS championship game between South Dakota State and Montana on Sunday afternoon. That's coming up this weekend in Frisco. Just play one more game. We get more football. And it's something that's meaningful. All right, a couple of questions. A couple of things that people said, hey, could you remind us of something? You keep using the terms Power 5, Group of 5. What do those mean? It's just conference designations. So the Power 5 was made up of the teams that were part of the SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and Pac-12. The Group of 5 were the teams made up from the conferences of the Sun Belt, the American, who tried to call themselves Power 6, Conference USA, the Mountain West, and the MAC. The MAC was the fifth. So those were the 5 conferences that made up the Group of 5. What are you shaking your head?
I can try to call myself Margot Robbie's husband, but, I'm not.
Right. And so somebody said, okay, well, who's going to be the Power 5 this year with the Pac-12 going away? Nobody. It's simply consolidation. The Power 5 is now the Power 4. The SEC, the Big 10, the ACC, and the Big 12. And then you will still have those other 5 conferences that would make up what has loosely been termed the Group of 5. So still the Sun Belt, Conference USA, the American, the MAC, and the Mountain West. I keep thinking about this, and I'm trying to punch holes in my own idea. And I don't think this is something that I've stolen from it. I haven't heard anybody suggest this. We were kind of workshopping this idea, and I've been thinking about it throughout the course of the afternoon. And it's just something that I kind of came up with. And I understand whether it's Southern Miss or UCF or in previous years before getting into the Big 12 or any other school, Western Michigan from the MAC or Boise State, saying, no. We don't want to play for a lesser championship. We want to play for the national championship. The fact of the matter is, those schools really aren't playing for the national championship. Outside of Cincinnati, with that 1 year that was really 2 years. I mean, Cincinnati's inclusion in the playoff was really 2 years in the making because they had the 2020 season where they went undefeated, and then they followed it up with a 2021 season in which they went undefeated. And so it was like a buildup of, man, this is a really good team, and they got pro guys, and people are talking about them. And that helped them in the rankings, plus they had the wins over Notre Dame and Indiana during that 2021 season that we talked about. So it really took something special to get a Group of 5 team into the 4-team playoff. And what we said, there are 4 times when would have had a Group of 5 team that would have been part of a 12-team playoff. And so I understand, we don't want to play for a separate national championship. Somebody suggested that what we're explaining is heavyweight championship and welterweight championship in boxing. And yeah, I guess so.
I mean, we've already got the setup in college football. We've already got it.
And somebody tweeted at us, or tweeted at me and Borky. I don't know if they had you on it or not, Richard, but, in high school football, you have a 7A champion and a 6A champion, and nobody thinks any less of the 6A champion. I mean, the best team in the state this year was the 5A champion, wasn't it? It was Louisville.
Nobody thinks any less of the 2A champion. It's just a function of the fact that it's a smaller school.
Right. Right. So,
with fewer resources.
Look at the atmospheres in Montana and tell me that those games don't matter. I make reference to it all the time. I'm a broken record, but I grew up going to FCS playoff games. They felt important. Every player on the field, every fan in the stands could not have possibly cared less about Clemson that day. They weren't even thinking about what was above them. I got to storm the field, and I got Louis Ivory's autograph. None of you know who it is. It doesn't matter. But as a fan, that was incredible. And the players, they wanted just a playoff game, not even the championship. And that was the biggest game of their life. It didn't matter.
because you're playing for a title. So let's play this out just for a second with this scenario that I've just kind of dreamed up. All right, so we got the 12-team playoff that starts next year. And now we're just going hypothetical. Let's make next season a great season for Southern Miss. And let's make next season a great season for James Madison. And then let's say let's say both. Again, this is without looking at any schedules. Don't hold me to this. But let's make James Madison ranked in the final playoff rankings. Let's say they're 15. And let's say that Southern Miss is 18. And let's say Boise State is 22. And give me another group of 5 team. Let's say Nevada is like 38. And those are the 4 highest-ranked group of 5 champions. So, you got the 12-team playoff going on, and none of those group of 5 schools were in the top 12. But you're not done, and no disrespect, but you're also not relegated to the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Now, you're going to have 2 on-campus semifinal games where James Madison is going to host Nevada, and Southern Miss at the Rock is going to host Boise State in a college football playoff welterweight semifinal game. We got to workshop the name. I understand that. And then the winner of those 2 games is going to meet in a neutral site for the national championship. And they're going to get a trophy, and the game's going to be televised on ABC, and it's going to be on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon or a Monday night, or I don't care when you play it. And 2 million people are going to watch it.
Possibly even more than that. For reference, this bowl season, the Tuesday, day after Christmas, starting at 5:30 Eastern Time, First Responder Bowl between Texas State and Rice drew 2.8 million viewers. That is more than 99% of NBA games this year.
We had a couple of people say you're describing the NIT tournament, but I'm not.
Mm-mm.
It's not the same as the NIT because the NIT's got big schools littered all over it.
And the main tournament forces the inclusion of every single conference.
Yes. Yeah. And somebody said if the group of 5 would do that, it would bring more money. That's Jared and Tupelo. Yeah, it would. It absolutely would generate more revenue. I would like to think that Southern Miss fans would show up in a big, big way for that game on campus in December. And we've seen what James Madison fans look like.
Yeah,
They'd pack their place out, I guarantee you, for that.
They do it every Saturday.
Again, it's not. This is not the only opportunity. This is in the absence of that super, super special season where a group of 5 school makes the 12-team playoff. There's still something of massive significance worth playing for. I don't know. I think we're onto something here.
Yeah. I mean, as somebody that has constantly advocated for the little guy in college football, because that's what I grew up on, I think that Liberty and SMU showing in their bowl games should tell you a lot. It should. And I think we should reevaluate the structure of the playoff because of how incredibly mismatched one was and one would have been had they been included.
Kelso in Ocean Springs says, you've got my attention. Kelso, James Madison fan. As good as James Madison has been and is going to continue to be as a program, the odds of James Madison making the 12-team playoff are not super high. And the odds of James Madison winning the 12-team playoff are even smaller. But the odds of James Madison being one of the 4 highest-ranked group of 5 teams and hosting a game on campus and winning that and possibly winning a national championship game, those are pretty high. I don't know. Sports Talk Mississippi streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Mike in Oxford says it really is the power two. Yeah. I mean, when you look at the revenue numbers, the Big Ten and the SEC are in the process of significantly separating themselves. That's why Florida State's trying to get out of the ACC. We understand that. But even so, there is a significant difference in budget sizes between Wake Forest and Nevada.
Absolutely.
Just sticking with the Wolfpack.
And athletes, if we're being honest. I mean, watch highlights. That's all you need of Boston College SMU. Not a good Boston College team. And watch the difference.
It could help a smaller team build a resume that might get them into the playoffs the following year.
Yep.
You're right.